Perfect. We're at 12:15 and I'm going to call the committee for the whole meeting to order. We can start by acknowledging that we are privileged to meet on the unceded and ancestral territories of the Squamish and Stattleya nations. With that, there is an agenda recommendation. An
That the amended agenda of this meeting be approved.
Thank you, Lisa. A seconder for that. Thank you, Cynthia. All those in favor? Okay, thank you. Just notice my camera is off. Turn it on. Same with Melissa, same with Cynthia. There we go. Sorry. Yeah. I forget it automatically is off. Yeah. Thanks. Okay. With that, there's a recommendation for some minutes.
That the minutes of the committee of the whole meeting held on January 15, 2025 be adopted.
Thank you, Lisa. Second for that. Melissa. All those in favor? And then that's carried. Are there any trustee items in the committee of the whole? Okay, hearing none, and we don't have any presentations. So that brings us to our information items. Trustee calendar and upcoming events. That's you, Danielle.
Yep. This Friday is implementation day. The First Nations would like to know which trustees are attending. So I'm aware that I believe Cynthia and Rebecca are attending.
I'll go to PSS. I have my grandson Thursday night, so I might be, and there's no school Friday, so I'm gonna sort them out. So I might be running a little bit. I think it starts at 8:30.
9, the PSS.
Oh, I can do that then.
I think should I go to PSS if you guys are both there?
No, Cynthia's going to Don Ross.
Okay.
So come to PSS with me.
Okay, yeah, I can go to PSS. That's this Friday?
Yeah.
Great.
And is John Ross starts at 9 too?
I think it actually starts at.
It's an 8:30 for registration, but it's a soft start because there will not be a break before lunch.
Okay.
So 8:30.
Yeah.
8:30, perfect.
And then registration at PSS is in between 8 and 9.
Between 8 and 9.
Yeah. Starts at 9. Does anyone else plan on attending? Okay, so I will let them know.
You know, April's disappointed she's missing that one too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know if they want us to say anything? Should we have anything prepared?
So I know in the south, the fellow that's coming in to MC is a fantastic individual who does this work. So he will determine if he would like a trustee to be witness, and if that's the case, we'll give whoever's there, the opportunity to, and he'll just choose one of the people that are there. I guess that if it's April's, I think it's just, it will be you. Me. So we can talk ahead of time about what those responsibilities are. So make sure you feel prepped, but likely in the south, they will probably want the respected persons in the room to witness. So I suspect that you will be asked to witness.
Okay.
And then in the north, I'm not sure how they're running that because I'm in the south and we focused on that. So Paul might be able to provide that information back.
I did ask
Oh, good.
last month. I don't know.
Yes.
I don't recall who I asked, but I asked the same thing. Do I need to be prepared to do an opening or say a few words? And it was pretty much, it's Indigenous led. So we're not going to overstep. If called upon, then maybe have a few words ready, but don't expect it.
Okay, yeah, no, that's fine.
Kind of
Yeah.
idea.
And that's the same for staff as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'm going to be asked to speak or not, and I will go with the flow.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Good, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, you have more
Yes.
on the calendar?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, more than one thing on there?
Yes. Celeste, trustee Baker let us know or let me know that there's a DPAC meeting February 18th. So I believe, is that one online? Online, yeah, okay, thanks. And then next Wednesday, sorry, is our yearly partner group meeting in Whistler. So I'm aware that Rebecca, April, and Rachel are not able to attend. I just want to double check everyone else is able to attend. Right?
So far,
Okay, excellent. February 22nd is the BCSDA Provincial Council. So Melissa is registered and will be attending that, and that's online, I believe. And Rebecca and Cynthia will give an update on the motion for that shortly. Then March 3rd is the SSTA liaison meeting, which Rebecca will be attending, I believe. And we're already looking at March 5th. We have agenda setting with Rebecca and Cynthia. And March 6th and 7th, there's a board chairs and partner liaison meeting in Richmond. So Rebecca, Chris, and myself will be attending. And Rebecca and I both have hotel rooms booked for that. And then we're already looking at March 12th is the board meeting. That one is going to be the Squamish Custodial Recognition Dinner. And then April, we have agenda setting, April 1st. And then the April 9th board meeting, we are going to have the Calcum School Learning Plan as well as a board meeting in Pemberton, which will have the Pemberton Custodial Recognition
Oh,
Dinner.
what's that?
April 9th. And then further in April 22nd, we have a DPAC meeting. And then April 24th to 27th is BCSDA AGM. I don't think we've registered, I don't think they've opened up the room block or registration yet, but if anybody is aware that if they're unable to attend, please let me know.
It's not looking like I'll be able to get leave to attend, but I could come on a Friday night or the Saturday morning. But my question was the cost. If a ticket has to be purchased for me to attend and I can only do one of the 3 days, how much money is it?
I think they have to look into that.
Do they charge to attend AGM?
Oh, yeah,
100%.
Yeah. there's registration.
Probably.
I didn't know if that was for the lead up days.
I think there might be a right? Is there pre-registration for the Thursday? I'm not sure. So that it might be able just to pay just for the
AGM project.
yeah, the AGM portion, but I can look into that for.
Yeah, maybe
next
I
board
did
meeting.
let Archie know not to register me
Mhm.
for the time being. But if we could get some information on what the cost is, I'd be happy to attend when I can outside working hours.
Yeah, we'll take a look at that and see. Good. And then anybody else? Anybody else aware? Sounds like everyone else thinks they'll be able to attend. For April 24th to 27th. Okay. And then just
Rachel, you're gonna be at AGM?
I don't think so, but I'll confirm in the next week.
Okay, and Lisa, you're planning on attending, I believe.
planning on attending. I have new management starting, so I'm pretty sure I've booked it off, but
okay.
Well, even the Saturday, the AGM portion is quite important to have every
Yeah, that's
every
what
vote
yeah.
sometimes makes a difference.
It is, if I can just jump in, it is interesting how the voting works because some of the voting is weighted, but other votes are not. And so it really does come down to people coming and counting individual votes. So
Mhm.
I'm happy to attend like this. I was just conscious of the fact that I know it's going to cost probably $500, but I would love to attend. I just don't want to buy a ticket
I
for.
think it's worth whatever the cost might be.
Yeah, for that reason alone, as Cynthia
Yeah.
just said, I'm happy to attend for sure the Saturday. So as long as that is acceptable, then I'm happy to say now that I will be there for sure for the Saturday. And I'm working through other things. I just can't confirm Thursday and Friday.
Okay, that sounds good.
They sometimes leave Sunday open in case
Yeah.
leads into Sunday,
Yeah, I
but
could
it
do-
rarely happens.
I could do it, the weekend is not a problem.
Okay.
It's just the weekdays.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Okay, and then just a heads up that I'm gonna be helping, I'm gonna be a scrutineer for the AGM, so I'm not sure how busy I'll be helping with that or not, but I just wanted everybody to be aware.
As long as you pack snacks for us.
Yeah. I was gonna say that and I decided not to. Thank you, Melissa.
And if you have suggestions on snacks, open to that as
I
well.
was only teasing.
Okay.
Good for now?
Calendar, yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Next up is the motion for the BCSTA Provincial Council, which we developed last month at our meeting. And then received a phone call about it. And in order to go forward for provincial council, it needed to be emergent. And it had to have a rationale provided as to why it's emergent, and we didn't do either. So it's being pushed now forward to perhaps come to AGM. And that was on the student voice.
Yep.
The non-voting, what's it called?
Non-voting students at delegate.
Yeah. So I just wanted to let you know that that was the outcome of that piece.
Okay. Yeah, I
Oh,
think,
my apologies. I thought we were discussing the one that we had sent to Stacia through Chris and I.
That's under discussion
a little bit
items.
Oh,
That's
perfect.
later in
Thank
the
you.
agenda.
yeah, I think a little bit of good learning there for us about making sure that we put down some rationale about why the motion is emergent. I thought it was obvious why it was emergent, but obviously it was not. And so I think that, like, for me, that was good learning that came out of this, was that you just really do have to explicitly state this motion is emergent because although we did have rationale why we thought it was important,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and we had reference links to the document, that was not quite enough. But I think it will be good to send it forward to AGM.
If I may, I
Go ahead.
would have assumed it was emergent as well, because it's an emergent topic that's been discussed, and you received the report from a third party. So I think it's respectfully, I think it's interpretation on the part of the executive, and which is their want. And what I'm pleased about, the sake of the work that was done by the board, is that the consideration is just to move it forward to AGM, so it will still be addressed.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't worry about it too much.
Well, and I don't know if it's an automatic. I think
was
that
just
they're
gonna say
moving
that.
it forward to the next step.
We're led.
Oh, I see.
The
Okay.
last committee could decide that we don't need to have.
Do we
this.
have to resubmit it by the new deadline?
I think Rebecca said it's fine.
I think they just moved it.
They just did it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It does go forward to the next step. It would be interesting to see where they put it in. Because I'm sure there will be other discussion about student voice.
Mhm.
That was just a statement.
It'll be an interesting discussion.
And this is, one in particular was one that every vote mattered. And,
Yeah,
and stuff.
it's like
It was-
51% or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
So
it
close.
passed by 51%.
And half the room had
Or
left.
53 or something.
And half the room had left and.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey. There's nothing else. And that is the next up is the BCSTA Professional Learning Committee report, and April was going to be doing this. But I do know. So following the PLC meeting, I did receive a call from Gordon Lee from BCSTA. Followed up by a letter that they were sent out looking for presenters well, first of all, they're looking for a selection of student performances, in which case their BCSTA is willing to put in $4,000 to help with any sort of travel costs or anything associated. But like we have anything that any school clubs or whatnot that would want to perform, or an individual or something, we need to be looking out for that. Of course, Chris, if it's something that you think that we can manage, because we'd be responsible for travel, accommodation. If required, So, and I think Gordon reached out to you as well. How about that?
Yeah, so the letter, I think, went out to most of everybody, and including superintendent. So if the board happy to share this with the principals and other folks, and if there's someone who has a proposal to come forward, we can see if it's doable within the budget that provided, and it would mean we would have an administrator or teacher, adult sponsor, of course, come down, which happy to support that as well. So if the board would like us to reach out to our schools, we're happy to do that. I suspect they will be likely looking to bring folks in from further afield, because that was one of the main things, right? Was that it was folks from outside of Metro in the immediate area. So again, happy to share this with schools and leadership students and see if they'd be interested in putting in a proposal. But it won't be a guarantee that they'll be picked. I just have a suspicion that it would be someone from further afield who wouldn't always have an opportunity to come down, because they usually choose folks locally, as we know. And when we have the opportunity, as we do, to do our events, BCSSA and other things are held in Whistler, that's when we're able to showcase our students. So happy to reach out, but I would suspect they're going to choose kiddos from a little bit further afield. We don't have that opportunity.
I think it's great just to send the message out and ask people. It's always good to ask. They can always say no, or no, thank you.
I want to
Showcase our
feel like
kids.
that.
Well, I think there might be, my understanding is that they're worried they may not get interest. So they just want to ensure that, like, so if we have anyone interested, I think we should submit.
Absolutely.
And,
Did they have any topics in particular that they wanted to have the speakers come and speak on? Or were they open to
they're not
speakers?
students, it's student performers.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you said there was both.
Started the thing that during the break, lunchtime,
Yeah.
it's performances.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you also said they
Yes.
wanted, they didn't have a call out for, I thought you said they had a call out for speakers also.
But we're talking about the student performers right now.
Okay, I thought we were
And then
done
I
with
will
that.
speak, then I will speak on the next piece. Okay. So, any more thoughts on student performers?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I think it would be awesome. If we did
Yeah.
that.
I don't think staff requires a motion. I think we.
Yeah,
We know what to do next. Thank you.
No, we don't need a motion.
Okay.
Okay, so next up is, Gordon also called me about this and, followed up with a letter. And then April did mention it to me as well because of her attendance at PLC. And I think, followed up with Chris as well. So when Gordon called me, he says they're looking for, presenters. They're going through four concurrent streams of workshops. So one being communications and advocacy, particularly strategies that engage communities and stakeholders. Two, Indigenous education, progress in the implementation of Bill 40, which we discussed at our finance meeting, some of the complications that are coming from Bill 40. Student success, programs and structures that promote student success. And then April had a thought behind that piece about Article 75. Did I get it right?
Did.
Because we had that conversation last
Mhm.
month about what we're doing. And then data and evidence, information that guides governance and decision making. So those are the four streams that they're inviting us to perhaps do a submission to do a presentation. And his thought was on the Indigenous education piece with Bill 40 for us, but we're welcome to submit if we choose, and what the deadline is. So they said that they're seeking 3 district teams to share their best practices in each of the areas. Yep, go ahead. Excuse me.
I think it would be a missed opportunity not to apply to present on Article 78, as we had discussed.
Article 75.
Pardon me.
Yeah. I know, I keep calling it different things.
Yeah, whichever article. But when we had the discussion that we had in our finance training, it seems like there's something unique happening here. And although we had discussed that perhaps it might fall on deaf ears, I think it's at least worth. What do you think, Chris?
So I think the general idea of our innovative approach is a good one. I think my caution, and they did share this with April when she spoke to me about it, was just the fact that the reason we have Article 75 is part of our collective agreement. And that's in response to the fact that we are one
Oh, yeah.
of two maybe districts that do not have composition language. So other districts provided additional monies to ensure they're able to hire additional EAs when students were not allowed to remain in classes if there were like 3 or more students with autism, for example, which thankfully in this district we don't follow that. So because of the monies that were provided to other districts, the ministry's approach to us was to allow us to apply for a certain number of FTE for teachers in compensation for not having additional monies for EAs. So the only danger is, and I'll say this from a finance and a practical point of view, because it's collective agreement language, if this is something other districts wanted to pursue in their collective agreements, they would also have to either find a way to undo, which I'm not sure how they would do unless they redid restored language, because that's a provision, which would mean you would be asking boards to be voting on budgets that would have hundreds, if not hundreds of thousands per teacher or millions of additional funding to come out of their budgets to pay for additional teachers on top of the money, because we don't pay for those teachers. We get the money from the ministry. So if we had to pay an additional $2.2 million, we would be in big trouble as a district. We'd have to do cuts. So my concern is, while it's an innovative approach and we know the power of the model and support it, I don't know that you would necessarily want to put that pressure on boards to do the same, because they're not funded for it.
So they
We
can't-
are. So
May I?
Yeah.
The pressure is not on the boards, the pressure is on the system. And, one could argue, why can't we have both? Why, we need to be talking about the things that are working here. And I understand your hesitation, but I think maybe they wouldn't even accept the application. And maybe there's other reasons that we wouldn't want to do it. But just because the money isn't there right now doesn't mean we shouldn't be talking about a good thing that's benefiting teachers and students here.
appreciate that. And I think it would just be beholden on us to just be clear, though the reason we're able to do it is because of this. And so, right to your point, advocacy for more funding to do both.
Yeah, exactly.
And then that's the approach. I just want to provide
Background there.
that background and some responsibility, because I wouldn't want to. Yeah, I think it would, I think it has to be value add, right? Where, to your point, we excite other people to do this awesome work and get the funding so that you're not kind of shutting down programs or taking away other supports in order to pay for it. Because it's a collective agreement factor.
I think it's just it's important to just get people thinking about these things, Chris. Like, this system might not be set up to do it the way that we're doing it, but if people don't even know, what April had articulated is that people just have no idea what is happening in this district. And so if we can talk about it and get people thinking, it's not going to create change in other districts tomorrow, but at least it'll be the seed maybe for change somewhere in the next 5 or 10 years. Who knows what that might look like? Those variables can be so around.
So the deadline is February 26th, so we need to think about what we actually want to submit. Or we can submit more than one idea.
Do we have someone who is readily available, who would be able to speak to this topic without having to ask them to go about a whole lot of work to prepare a presentation?
Oh, I'm not concerned. I'm certain we can provide support for the trustees to have the conversation for sure. I think, April has been around for a long time, was a part of that.
Okay.
Certainly speak to it. I would just want to ensure they were just the facts in place.
Yeah.
So I'm not worried about providing the time. We've actually got like the present to put together a proposal won't be that difficult because we actually have the description, the language, it's on our website. Like we can share this. This is what we do. Here are the benefits we've heard. We'd love to share
All right.
this innovative practice.
Just making sure this is not an onerous amount of work.
No.
Okay.
Well, and the presentation proposal due on February 26th is just a one pager, right? It's just the concept.
Okay.
And then the actual presentation, the PowerPoint, and all supporting documents must be by the end of March.
I think it's an interesting opportunity for sure to present, a different way of looking at things. And if the presentation could somehow respect the fact that funding structures are different in different districts and not make anyone feel that, we're not doing this, but we should be doing it, but we can't do it because we're funded in a different way. And I think it might be good. Like Celeste said, it's just a good seed to plant and, see if it grows from there, or maybe other people will have more questions and just be curious. I think I think the AGM is a good opportunity to create that curiosity in other districts. And as long as we do, like, I respect what you're saying, Chris, a lot, that we don't want to make other districts feel that this is impossible for them to do because of their funding structure and feel badly about that. But
Again, my point to be frank isn't about making anybody feel bad. It's just being really clear on why we're able to do it.
yeah,
And all the benefits of it.
Yeah.
What I'm concerned about from
Yeah.
staff is trustees not understanding that piece.
yeah,
And then going, why don't we have this? We want it, and get everybody excited to go, oh yeah, you can have it, but that's gonna be millions of dollars potentially from the size of your district outside of your
Yeah.
envelope, unless it's the advocacy piece, which is, I think, the piece we can ensure that we have on there, right? And then it can be a call to action to everybody about funded education for doing the right things. So yes.
Lisa's hands up first, and then Melissa.
Yeah, so my question, Chris, which other school district district gets the funding in the same way that we do?
Do you know
And
what?
what
I
are they
don't,
doing with it?
I don't know. I've never actually looked into, I think I was told it was one or two districts that are composition language. We may be the only ones by now. I don't know.
And that's what you reported on last month. It's like we were the only ones doing this under Article 75.
Yeah, Article 75 is unique to SD 48, the City Sky School District. It's part of our local agreement.
Yeah.
Yes.
So just a follow-up question, then you, Melissa. So for me, I'm curious as to, because we're speaking about the collective agreement, I'm concerned about the union. Do we need to talk to our local union if we're going to be doing any type of presentation? And then do you see a negative side to this, to us too? Can it sound like, is there any kind of fallout that could come from?
So, there's an
Should we
item
leave this in camera?
about bargaining, and I think it's just important that I need to save that for that. But,
Okay.
but yes, there is a potential downside. And yeah, it has to do with bargaining, but I need to save that labor conversation respectfully to any public listening. It's my duty to save that for in camera.
Okay. which removes trustees in conflict as well then from that conversation. Because I like to be as open and transparent as we can be. So I have no problem sharing it, but I don't know if there's anything negative that can come from that.
But I think if it's for the betterment of the students and we're discussing, like, I don't know. You guys figure that one out.
Well, I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying that the fallout of that and our students are benefiting from it, but other students in different districts may not be able to.
Why don't we save the discussion for in camera? We can have any trustees with connections to unions recuse themselves, and a preliminary discussion can be had amongst those left in the room, and a decision can be made as to whether or not it should be opened up to the board at that time, but do it in camera.
That's right. We can pull it on camera.
And for the benefit of the public, we're taking care and being careful in our discussions about things that might impact the collective bargaining process, but because we don't want to cause harm to the process.
Right.
So that's the reason why all of this information does eventually become public, but because that process has to take place in a structured way, at this time, it's not going to be discussed publicly.
Thank you.
Thanks. Melissa,
I'm just wondering how long the presentation is if we were to do one.
20 minutes, I think. No longer than 20 minutes and leaving 15 minutes for facilitated questions and answers. But the concern sessions are scheduled. So we'll probably have to do it a couple times. These sessions will be repeated, so it'll be a couple, at least twice. Okay.
Great.
Did we cover off on that?
And I'm so sorry if
Yeah.
I missed this. Are there any motions under this item regarding the cost of sick leave?
I'm not following you.
So we had spoken in the past about advocacy work that we were going to be doing regarding the increasing cost of sick leave for employees. And so is there anything in any of the agenda items that we'll be discussing? I didn't hear you say that.
That we will be or AGM will be? Because we're talking about presenting under.
Yep, so perhaps not under this one, but at some point at AGM or through provincial council, is that matter going to be brought forward and discussed?
I'm happy to speak to that. So last year we did put a motion in and it was declined because another district had done a similar one the year before for it that had passed. And so that is something that's already been.
But it just keeps getting worse. I mean, like, it's not over.
Yes, it's not nowhere near.
Yeah.
And I find a lot of items that we, even at AGM, we passed the motion and for BCSD to advocate on our behalf. Much just sits there. Because my thing is always, what happened to this? Because, you know, when I was on the AvEd committee, Indigenous Ed now, I guess, but way back when, I'm like, well, what happened to all these other recommendations we put forward? Like, can we track so we're not repeating ourselves?
Did anything happen, or do we need to maybe talk about it again?
Yeah, or update or something. Melissa and then Cynthia.
That was actually brought up at the provincial council meeting in the city, that they were questioning these things that were getting approved and then where the follow-up was. And it did get a little bit heated, and I'm sorry, I can't remember what was said of it, but that they're going to try and have more information given to people as to what's happening. So I'm trying to
Like a follow-up?
really better follow-up, but that there is a lot of roadblocks with the work that they're doing.
Yeah. Cynthia and then Lisa.
You can follow how motions are moving along in the portal. There's a place there that you
Mhm.
can watch that. And I think part of the issue about why things maybe are not followed up upon is because you go to AGM, there's 40 or 50 motions. Like 99% of them pass. And I think there's just simply not a way for a small group of people who work at BCSTA to do the day-to-day work and then try to do the advocacy for all of these motions, some of which I question whether or not it's like priority. I'm sure
It's priority to someone.
it is
yeah.
to someone, exactly, but I often wonder if a lot of these are passed without enough thought. And again, that just brings me back to like, please, everyone who can make it, because every vote counts and every voice counts. It just takes one person to go up to the microphone and say something that could convince an entire room of people that perhaps they should rethink their thinking and be
So,
a little bit more objective when you're voting. It's
so from my perspective on that, I'm not saying BCSTA isn't doing their job at
no,
advocacy.
I think they're
I'm saying
overwhelmed by the
that
amount
all
of
these
work they have.
letters go to the ministry and are often, thank you for your letter.
Yeah.
And then that's it. There's nothing that follows up
Yeah.
after that. So that's where I think the piece is.
Yeah. So maybe again, it goes back to it's important. What are the main objectives? What are the most important things that can be done? And let's just send 5 letters. And then maybe the ministry will say, okay, we've only got 5 letters. Maybe we can take some time to look at these and to work on these rather than, as you say, oh, thank you for your letter. Next.
Yeah.
Because everyone's overwhelmed. I think just,
Yeah, and there's no money.
and there's no money. I think, yeah. Anyhow.
Lisa?
I think my biggest concern with all of it is that the province isn't funding the collective agreements in place. Because if our collective agreements are allowing for the sick time, which they would, these things should be compensated by the province. So I'm kind of wondering how the costing is actually occurring within these collective agreements, because clearly it's not being done in a method that is allowing us to recoup the true actual cost of the collective agreements. And that shouldn't be on us trying to find additional revenues. Any school board trying to find additional revenues on something that is contracted by the province through these collective agreements. This is the cost of doing business. Here's the collective agreement, cost it out, have a remittance from the district on what sick time cost us. This is the additional increase in our sick time allowances. And this is a cost of the collective agreement. I'm kind of missing the point on why they don't fund to the true value of the agreements that are in place. I've left you all speechless.
Yeah, I just jump in to point out that year after year, there is a motion that goes forward about to be even more comprehensive, which is fully funding the public education system. I do not doubt that's not going to come forward again. It comes from BCSTA. It comes from various bodies, right, that are saying this. But to the point, under number 6 is your motions. I think it would behoove the board to consider dusting off last year's motion about sick leave provision and send it again, because the worst case is thank you, it's already been submitted, or maybe everybody else is waiting for someone else to do it. So that's an easy one because you've done it before. We have last year's. I would respectfully ask the board to consider sending that in. Just to your point that if nobody has, then they're not going to look at it. I suspect other boards are doing the same thing because we're all in the same boat. But if there's other folks that are waiting for somebody else to do it, why not, right? Like send it in every single year so we get action on it.
Just to follow up though, Chris, it really, is it not written that they fund the collective agreement? And if it is, could we not just try and send in a remittance that this is
That's not
overflow?
how no, that's unfortunately not how it's written. It is the responsibility of individual school boards. So in the funding that we get, there is a formulation of what, right? What might be expected. And so that's why we have our projections and we do our best to budget accordingly. But things have changed since COVID for sure. We've tracked that, and the province tracks that, ACPC tracks that. And so it's more the advocacy around, you know, providing additional monies to fund the proportionate increase in sick leave that they already do. So it's again, it's the same as making changes to new school buildings, where before it was fully funded by the Ministry of Education, and now we know that the ministry will look at contingencies and see what additional funds the board may have to pitch in to pay for that, which fiscally I understand, but it does make folks who are waiting for new additions and assessment efforts like ourselves look at a district from 2 years ago that had a project approved and fully funded. So there has been a change in funding, and there's all kinds of reasons for that. And we're in a co-governance model with the ministry. That said, I think that it would behoove the board to continue to advocate for, again, a fully funded public education system.
So personally, I think that the advocacy and message, instead of just asking for the sick time, is to ensure that the collective agreements are fully funded by the ministry. And then when we realize that they're not, we send them a remittance. This is the sick bank, this is this is that. You guys have allocated all of these things, that this is what it's going to cost. We need the funding in order to carry it out. Regardless of whether or not it's sick time. I think sick time is one of the smaller catalysts, in my opinion, and it's one that's easily identifiable and we're able to pull out. But what about all the other little nuances that are embedded within those?
No, because you've got local. Just quickly, you've got local bargaining matters and provincial. So this board has agreed upon many local matters that cost money, that is funded by the board, and rightly so. That's how you ensure good working relations, etc. The pieces that are at the provincial level, right? We know our wages, class size composition, benefits, things like that. So just for clarity, like the boards do have to go after specific provisions and collective agreements that are provincial in nature, not local, because we do pay out of our funds for some local agreement language, right? Like the amount of sick leaves or ed leaves, sick reductions of FTE, all kinds of other things that cost us money, but that we do collectively because we want to support the workforce at the local level.
And the ministry acknowledges that they're not paying, like they're not giving us funding for inflation. They're not giving us funding for sick leave. They're not giving us enough funding for benefits. They acknowledge it. They just don't have money.
Okay, so I think we're a little bit off track, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, was that still under PLC?
I think we went into number 6.
We did, yeah.
AGM
Discussion. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you have anything you wanted to add on to the BCSD AGM 2025 under D? Let's see if you decided.
I think I have that in the
I think you covered.
in camera, because it's mostly about bargaining.
Okay.
That's my update. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just here right now. So.
Oh, is it? Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
I'll say that I
okay.
did attend with April over 2 days, January 30th and 31st.
Oh, no, not,
Oh.
not, this isn't
No,
BCS.
this is the upcoming AGM.
I think this is, you already gave an update on, Rebecca.
What did I still
So-
get under?
Yeah,
Sorry.
it's related to the letter from Gordon Lee.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's covered.
Sorry, I'm confusing my acronyms. Apologies.
Well, still learning some of them. 17 years later. Okay, Okay, so, we're okay to move on. We have, motions for the AGM. So just as an FYI, and thank you, Archie, for looking this up. Within a 4-year term, which are our terms, if a motion is submitted more than once, the ledge committee may, deny, what was the word? Reject it. So if we repeatedly try to bring forward the same motion, it may get rejected because they allow it once per term. Just as a note. What? Isn't today the 12th? But today has the deadline for extraordinary motions?
That would be anything related to bylaws.
Okay.
So it's unlikely that we'd have anything.
Okay.
That.
Substantive motions deadline is February 21st. And this is South Coast branch motion. And Chris or Lisa want to speak to it? It's the one you guys have been working on, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Lisa, do you want to speak to it? Thank you.
You want, yeah, I'm whichever. What did you say? Me or you?
Go ahead, Lisa.
Go ahead, we'll tag team.
So originally, Stacia had done an amazing job, our South Coast branch president, in compiling some information and wanted us to seek funding for cybersecurity. And my thinking is, we've done a little bit of a revision, is other levels of government, like the health unit, for example, the cybersecurity is all done in-house. So the health unit is covered by the province. So why isn't the school boards covered by the province? They cover MyEd, but they don't cover the rest of the cyber world, and they have a much better economies of scale to do this work. So I kind of tweaked it a bit, and then Chris has revised it further and wordsmithed it a little bit nicer as well. And we've added some additional links from Stacia's original documentation. So we're looking to have approval for ministerial supports for cybersecurity. And the motion would be that the BCSTA requests the Ministry of Education and Childcare to find a method to provide school districts with cybersecurity. Rather than funding it, just provide it and just figure out the mechanism to help us. You've already got one. Why are we all inventing our own wheel when they have the capacity and already have the teams in place on a provincial level? And so our rationale, are we sharing the document, Chris? Is that up on the screen? No?
It isn't, I'm not sure.
Okay.
I don't.
So our rationale, we go into, there's an urgent need for increased funding to strengthen cybersecurity measures across school districts in British Columbia as the threat of cyber attack on the education sector continues to rise. The safety and privacy of students, staff, and school operations are increasingly at risk. In recent years, we have seen a concerning rise in cybersecurity incidents, with ransomware remaining one of the most impactful form of attack. However, other methods of data theft and disruption are also on the rise, with cyber criminals using increasingly sophisticated techniques. The costs associated with recovering from these attacks are steep. School districts lack the necessary financial resources to both prevent these incidents and recover quickly when they occur. Recent assessment has shown that school districts in the province are at a relatively low level of cyber maturity compared to the standards set by the Office of the Chief Information Officer, otherwise known as the OCIO. And the OCIO has strongly recommended increased security measures for school districts. Provincial governments have cyber resources that could be shared with school districts under the ministry. With the vast array of school district sizes, technical expertise and staffing capacity for providing such cyber resources range significantly across the region. School districts need a provincial collaboration approach, and we ask that the province secures cybersecurity resources for all school districts, as they do with the Ministry of Healthcare. School districts require the support of government to more effectively improve cybersecurity as they possess a specialized expertise in infrastructure and security to securely handle data. And then we've got a couple of links that have been provided for information for the motion. So we're looking to find somebody, I think, how does it work, Chris? Do we need to put somebody authorized to speak? I would think it would be Stacia would speak at the meeting on the motion. So do we put Stacia's name in here and then tick the 3 boxes and send it to the South Coast branch?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if we agree, I will leave that in administration's capable hands to give to Stacia for her meeting tonight.
Absolutely.
If we agree with this.
So are we looking for a motion? Or is that? I don't, not required.
No, the sponsor is the branch, so we've already agreed that we were
We're gonna do
work on
this.
this together,
Yeah.
so that's
So it's-
done. We don't need a separate board.
So that's
action.
that.
It's just,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
And
just
we'll link it, sorry, so you can see it.
as a reminder, I reported out on this in December, I believe. I had a call with Minister Bear in late November. And this was one of the topics that I was talking to Chris about prior and that we brought forward. And the minister said they are well aware and it sounds like they are trying to work on something. So like provincially, not just, so it's not just the independent schools. Districts. Go ahead, Celeste.
They also have a vested interest as well because the school districts are, a gateway to accessing the provincial government as well. So this would include education for employees, like platforms for ongoing education. For
Oh, yes,
employees,
it's
yeah.
all, yeah.
The
all-
whole
all-
deal.
The whole deal, because I'll just give a commendation to the IT team, and especially Chris Valancourt has done a really excellent job in providing us additional training for staff, which you did
We did
as
it,
well, our multi-factor authorization, our vetting of third-party folks on our systems. So we are, again, actually ahead of many districts, but that's again based on the people that you happen to have.
Mm.
And so hence the need for a provincial approach so that it's again equitable across districts. And I'll just mention just on the news this morning, even though we knew of it earlier and we weren't exposed, but PowerSchool is a student information system that's used for student information. We don't use PowerSchool for student information. We have MyEd, but many districts across Canada do, and they had a massive breach with addresses, student name, health information, etc. And so there's been a ton of fallout because of that, of course. And it just really reinforces the need for as Lisa said, and Stephanie did a lovely job, in the proposal, just outlining, right, the seriousness of this and why it really should be a provincial approach, not a ad hoc district by district. So I appreciate the work of Stassi and Lisa. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I think it's fantastic. So with knowing that it is on the radar of the ministry, I think that this goes a long ways to detail it out, and I appreciate the work put into it as well, and definitely support it. Anybody have anything to add?
I think that's great.
Okay. Nobody's objecting. Yeah, at least I think you're good to run with it.
Okay, so we'll send it off to Stacia ASAP, please. So
Awesome.
we can approve it tonight. That would be great. I've sent it off to Arsh. She's got it.
So
Thank you.
are they submitting it then? They're gonna submit it, right?
I don't know. I can email Stacia and say
Sure.
we just
Okay.
approved it at our meeting. I'll do that right now.
Just to make-
And that she'll have it in her inbox momentarily.
21st is
I
the deadline, so we've got some time.
I honestly think we got to get away from the funding, asking them to pay. Just ask them to solve, fix it. Because if we just all keep giving them motions for funding, that's all we heard last time was funding for this and funding for that. Like, actually stop downloading the authority to us and start taking the responsibility for it at your own level. Anyway, sorry, this is my gripe and soapbox of the day.
All right. With that, then we can continue on if everyone's okay. Looks like it. So next up. Looks like it's you, Cynthia, social media.
Yes, this, this topic came to mind when I was reading, I think a publication from the BCSTA that comes out into our mailboxes frequently, and they were talking about the X platform, and it had linked to the fact that a few other places have decided to remove X as a platform within their social media communications. The District of North Vancouver was one, Central Saanich was another, the CBC is a third. And I think there's evidence that there are decreased numbers of people using X as a social media platform. And I also feel that there's concern that the content that pops up on this platform has the potential to be extremist or offensive. And I would really feel horrible if some of our information went out and appeared next to an advertisement or a piece of content that did not align with our values. And so I would like to make a motion that we remove X as a media platform in our suite of communication tools.
Can I ask a question? Yeah.
Do you mean something that can be accessed by students on our network, or do you mean something like, do we use X to put out
Yeah, I was thinking
communication?
that too.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so are we talking about both of those things, whether or not it can be accessed on district equipment? And if we're going to use it to put information out to the public?
My original thought was just the way we send information out to the public.
Do we use TikTok also? Like, what else are we
No.
using?
No.
Snapchat? No.
No,
Twitter and Facebook, right?
Facebook and Twitter, Instagram.
Facebook, YouTube, obviously, but there's
Yeah.
Instagram and X, formerly from Twitter. I mean, it's- yeah.
And may I ask your thoughts on it, please?
My
I'm not
thoughts-
familiar with this.
Sure.
platform.
No, yeah, no, I support the motion. I think that unfortunately, we've just seen when they removed, all of the fact checkers and mediators from the platform recently, it is allowing for hate speech. I'm just going to say it, to
It
be
is.
propagating images, etc., trolling.
A lot of misinformation.
And I think that our communications are working well. The importance of Facebook for the North, so I want to ensure that stays in place. But I don't believe we need Twitter to get our messaging out. Jen has done some analysis ahead of time because I thought this might be coming, and we don't have a ton of subscribers to it, and those folks tend to also subscribe to the other channels, such as direct access to our websites as well as to Facebook. So I would, if we believe in diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is under threat right now from lots of factors, I would be very supportive of taking a stand and removing that from our platform. Thank you.
So did you make the motion?
I did.
missed that. Sorry,
I did.
sorry.
That's okay.
We should be having discussion after we get a seconder for that motion. Can you repeat it?
Yes, my motion would be that the Sea to Sky Board of Education remove the social media platform X from our suite of communication tools.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for that? Thank you, Melissa. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Oh,
I was
Melissa,
just gonna say, I think that if we do move forward with this, we should say something on X. That,
goodbye.
yeah, see,
Just send out a message to
see
families.
URL to just
Yeah,
saying
that's a good
like,
idea.
yeah, we no longer communicate on this platform.
Fair point.
It's simple.
Okay, so all those in favor of the motion? And that's carried. Great.
May I ask a question that's related but not needed for the motion piece? Can students access that platform through district computers?
And they access Twitter. I don't.
Use it.
Can we ensure that, can that be checked? Because there are things, sometimes kids are very smart, they're very
Absolutely.
smart and they can
They're
get
very
onto things. And so if we can double and triple check that that cannot be accessed.
I think we can because we can block other, yeah.
But by passing this motion and removing the use, we should be able to block it, access on our networks.
I'm not sure.
Actually, we
I will
have
find,
the
I will
same
find out. We
strongly
can certainly not use, yes.
For us not to use it as a communication tool,
Right.
Yeah.
not to
Block access.
block it
Yeah.
for use within the organization.
But we don't pass motions on deciding that anyway. I think that's
That would be
operational.
you, yeah.
I'm just saying that I know like in say in the clock,
But I take the consideration.
certain sites I
Mhm.
can't access.
Right.
When I'm there, you can't stream on this
That's right.
or whatnot. So the whoever manages your network can decide that. Or determine where to decide that.
Yeah.
I think
into that,
that
sure.
I would find it alarming if students could access things like X or TikTok or anything like that on district. There's no good reason that students should have access
Mhm.
to those sorts of things. The only one maybe is YouTube.
Yeah.
And
And
even,
it's
and,
education.
and even then, yeah, it has to be controlled. So while we're talking about it,
I think it might, we'll check into it for sure. Not sure if everything
Thanks,
is.
Chris.
Yeah, but you guys can kind of sort that.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you for that.
next up is the Indigenous Board Education session. Danielle?
Yeah, so just wanted to check in. I know we presented the last board meeting, the different options, and we just wanted to check in to see if the board would like to make a final decision on which option they would like. I know there was some discussion, but I don't think there was a final decision made.
And this would be for next calendar year.
No, this would be for June of this year.
Oh, for June. Okay.
Yeah. So we have June 25th right now planned to have an Indigenous education session for the board. So we have 3 options there.
Okay, any thoughts? So Celeste?
my impression was that if we were to read the book, we would have some discussion with Colleen about the book afterwards. Was that correct? Or is that an assumption?
That
Yeah.
was part of what we discussed.
Yeah.
Mhm. I would be interested in doing
Awesome.
I love the idea of doing the hand drum making together, but I really wonder if it's worth the cost if we might not be able to use the drum.
Mhm. And you asked that question last
Yeah,
month as
yeah,
well,
I'm
so
just
I'm
not sure. I'm just not sure if that's, I think I would now be more inclined to do the walk, I think would be great, or the review.
Why don't we defer the drum one until we have more information and maybe it'll be next year? That we may explore that again.
I just don't ever want to come across as being disrespectful.
Yeah. Anyone else have any thoughts?
I'm happy to do either of those topics, either the walk in the estuary or the book review. I know there was conversation about the book review maybe being a little bit tricky.
Oh yeah, don't worry about me.
Okay,
Yeah, I just said I might not.
yeah, so I'm happy to go do either of those. I think both of them would have value.
I'm kind of thinking like with the Indigenous walk in the estuary, I'm thinking about some of our students who are learning off the land. It would be interesting to learn some of the teachings that they're receiving. Plant life and
To learn in a similar way.
mhm.
That's an interesting perspective to add to it.
Anyone else?
Lisa,
I don't know where we are with this.
if we did a walk,
We need like a straw vote or whatever they call it, an informal vote.
if we did a walk, is the estuary a place, Lisa, where you would be able to walk with us?
Yeah, I would, yeah. As long as you're not pushing me down a hill, I'm okay.
I've never walked there, so I don't know what it looks like.
What? Okay.
Is that what we went and got lost?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Illustrating. We did some bushwhacking.
Oh my God.
The problem is with people that have to look at each other when we speak. Okay, not sure where to go with this.
Funny.
I suggest someone put forward a.
Motion?
Should we do an online vote? Like the monkey thing? The monkey survey pool, jump in, what's that thing called?
Survey Monkey?
Thank you.
And it's anonymous as well.
Yeah.
Why don't-
can we do that?
Can we
Yeah.
do it like tomorrow though?
There we
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
Let's do it tomorrow.
Yeah,
Okay, we'll do it tomorrow.
yeah.
Two options. Okay, great. Thanks, everyone. Then we can report back to the next
People
meeting.
can weigh in.
Yeah.
By then.
Exactly. It should be like trucking. Thanks.
Perfect. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate that.
There you go. Great idea. What were you calling it?
The monkey survey.
Survey close.
Close enough.
Okay, so next up, we have the committee and board meeting schedule. Celeste, you're there?
Yeah, so I'd like to start by sharing that I've done a review of the times that other school districts are holding board meetings. Many, including Vancouver, North Vancouver, and West Vancouver school boards, are holding their meetings after 5 p.m. They hold meetings on either 1 or 2 dates per month and sit for shorter sessions of no more than about 3 hours at a time. Carolyn Brody has been the chair of the West Vancouver School District for about 11 years and may be able to share some of her experience about how they conduct business. We've recently changed the structure of our trustee remuneration to no longer include compensation for travel time, which would allow for us to switch to a model where we could hold committee meetings virtually on 1 date a month and in-camera and public board meetings in person on another date, all after 5 p.m. This would make attending or listening to meetings and asking questions more accessible to the public, but it would also make serving in the role of trustee possible for more people who work full-time in the labor force with less flexible work schedules. We want to engage the public and we want to attract all sorts of people to this work. We also want to ensure that we're utilizing our resources optimally. Breaking up our meeting dates into shorter sessions rather than having sometimes 10-hour-long marathon meeting dates may lead to better decision-making by the board. Thank you for your consideration on this. I would like to suggest that we move to holding meetings later in the day rather than having early in the day meetings. And I look forward to hearing the thoughts of my fellow trustees.
Are you making a motion?
I just wanted to talk about it. I think that this is a big departure from what we've done in the past. And so I think I want to present the idea and perhaps suggest that we make a motion at a future meeting, but that we discuss it and think about it and consult with staff about it as well.
Okay, because I think we discussed it as well in the fall at one of our meetings. We talked about the schedules. I think you've raised it before.
Yeah,
And maybe last year as well.
I think we have maybe talked about this, but the structure of how we were paid was different at that time.
But really, we were never compensated for our travel time.
It was built
It was-
into the structure of
Mileage was, not time. So I drive down 4 hours a trip, right? 2 hours each direction, and my time is not covered. I
Right.
get wear and tear on my car only.
fine. Yeah.
So this just as an FYI, when you mentioned travel time.
Yeah, perhaps I was confused about how the structure of the remuneration, because my understanding wasn't necessarily that it was only mileage in how we were previously compensated.
It's only mileage
Mhm.
that was built in.
Okay.
So that's why I get a bit more Melissa just a little bit less than me. The Whistler trustees a little bit less than that. Squamish, nothing. And yours was like a minor.
Very small amount.
Mhm.
Nevertheless, that's all changed. Because now we just submit mileage based on whether we travel or not for a meeting.
Yeah, and then also consider this, that we all receive $1,400 a month. I have to put in 4 hours of travel to attend any meetings that are down in Squamish, which I signed up for, so that's fine, but so compensation really isn't balanced if you add that into it.
So what I'm suggesting is that we hold our meetings after 5 p.m. and that those meeting dates happen on, let's say the second Wednesday and fourth Monday, or fourth Wednesday, pardon me, of the month. And that perhaps we wouldn't need to travel for one of those because we are so efficient at conducting business online. And so for all of the reasons that I stated, I'm asking for the board's consideration in a change that we conduct business to allow for greater access to the public and allow for an increased number of people to even be able to serve in these positions.
Okay, fair enough. I think before I add anything, I'll see if anyone else wants to. Cynthia?
I wonder if it would be a good idea, Celeste, if you're comfortable with preparing a motion and whether you want to present that today, or like you said, maybe at a meeting in the future. And we take what you said away with us for consideration and then maybe have a discussion when there's a motion on the table. Because it's a big change from what we're doing currently. And I think at the end of the day, it's going to require a motion. And so maybe when you're prepared.
I think today's not the day. I think we just need to talk about it and think about it and, maybe give staff the opportunity to weigh in.
Like staff is going to do whatever we wish. And they've already indicated that. So.
Also, AGM is coming up, and so there might be an opportunity to talk to other school districts about the structures that they have. Carolyn, like I said, she might be a good person to touch base with. Presumably somewhere along her term, they may have changed the structure and function of how they're doing things. I don't know. So it's just an opportunity for us to start thinking about it, maybe collecting information. But
Yeah,
I think it would be premature for making a motion today.
Okay, well, we have had this conversation several times, so I'm trying to figure out, like, not just hear Celeste's point of view, but because there's a lot. I've done some work as well. I've looked into South Coast. I've looked into Nanaimo. I've looked into Gold Trail, our neighbors, and they all have a variation. Nanaimo's the only one doing daytime, but it's about 3 times a month in person. So, and then the others are evenings and in person as well. So, there's a lot more other stuff that I've looked into. So, but I see Lisa's hand was up. So Lisa, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, from being on a municipal council in the past and seeing some of the West Vancouver board meetings, when they're in the evenings, you do get, it's fractional, but you get more public engagement. When it's during the daytime, people are having to listen to it in their earbuds or during working hours potentially as well, right? So it opens you up to have more transparency, more engagement from the communities that we serve. And I don't dislike the idea. I think it's something that we should explore and keep our options open to. Virtual is quite great. I will be joining you at 3 o'clock, I think. But for me, it is hard as a working human trying to attend all the things that we're needing to attend. And yes, the parameters were set forth at the beginning of the tenure, but how many humans with great board exposure and experience are we missing out on because of the nature of how our board is structured. So I think it'd be good to discuss and think and come back at the next meeting or the meeting after AGM with an indication of what we might want to pursue.
Thank you. Cynthia and then Melissa.
What I'm really curious about is if we make a change that alters essentially the contract that we've signed. Oh, maybe this is, we're in committee of the whole. This would have to do with labor, I think. I don't know. I think maybe actually what I'm thinking of, this might be more of a confidential
In camera.
in camera, because it might have to do with labor. Yeah, I think I'll wait actually and hold that comment now that I'm thinking about it. I really wonder if we should have this discussion after a motion.
Well, I think
And maybe
If I
in
may.
camera.
if I may, I think it behooves us to actually have the thought that we should be investigating and forming, getting ideas and forming some form of a thought so that we can have a proper discussion about it. Well, if you put a motion at the table too quickly, then you risk losing out on different perspectives when you go to make the decision. Someone's just asked me about the Twitter feeds already, and apparently Twitter we use for school bus delays. So there's all sorts of things that when we're engaged in the moment and we're looking at things, sometimes we miss some of those peripheral thoughts. So I think we start the conversation and where it feels comfortable that we land, and perhaps have some of the discussion in camera.
I think a majority probably should be in the public interest, because at the end of the day, this is a job. We're paid to do this work, and we're paid quite handsomely for maybe attending one day a month, and $1,400 for that one day. Like, that's significant. I realize we have emails to check and stuff, but if we're going to be accountable to the public, we need to consider that. We just gave ourselves raises, and some months we're meeting more, some of us attend more, but again, I signed up knowing this, and I know from other trustees, like they chose to run for be a trustee because they knew the schedule. So to change this midstream is
That's clear.
challenging.
That's what I'm saying, though. If you change the schedule, more people might say, I want to do this job.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying as well.
And we're paid for more than just one day a month, to be clear. To say that we're paid $1,400 for one day a month would be not accurate at all.
But sometimes that's happening. I'm just saying, like, when we're talking about, we have other jobs, which I think almost all of us do. And we work around the schedules. And then we also have a lot of other opportunities to be in schools and other
Committee meetings,
and
preparation for these meetings. It is more than one day, for sure.
yeah, but if we're talking about adding additional nights, for me, I'm like,
What I'm suggesting is same amount of time broken up. Not more time, same amount of time broke. In fact, it would be less because you wouldn't have to have the hour-and-a-half break between the committee meetings and the public board meeting, right? Like, it would, I'm not saying it has to be more. It's just different.
well, it would be more than the one day.
Hours.
Yeah. I understand. Chris?
And Pippin, I just appreciate Celeste's suggestion that, that the idea be floated, some discussion, and then I appreciate Cynthia's comment. I think Lisa said as well, to now have some time to think about it.
Mhm.
And again, just reminding the board that when it is time for the motion and you're having the discussion, you come with an open mind. you don't come with your decision made up. Just respectfully, that's our part of the covenant and the work that you do. And to your point, have some time to think about what your pros and cons might be, where you feel you stand, and then be able to have the discussion back and forth. And at a later time, it will take a motion. And then we'll also need to look into, just to your point about the labor piece, if you've signed up a contract, is this something that can happen? If you have a discussion in March and the motion, does it happen in April, or is it, oh, actually you have to start it the next calendar year, or that works? So I feel from staff point of view, from just what I'm observing, is your superintendent for advice would be to table the discussion now and have those thoughts and conversations. Do your research, have the conversations at AGM, and then come prepared with issue questions you have, positions you hold, and questions for staff as well. So I think you need the time to process all of that.
So I think
This is one of those things that Elimina would call a green banana, right? Like not voting on something too soon, allowing time for it to ripen and time for consideration to be given. So I don't know when is the best time to bring it back, but my hope is that it can be brought back at some point in the next few months.
okay. Because another piece that we'll really have to consider is also the extra requirement on staff. And I know you said you'll do whatever.
But I'll still be prepared to
You want.
speak to it. I've worked in boards that have one day and also multiple days.
Yeah, but evenings, all evenings, and that means that's taking you staff
That might
away
be where I
from
have some.
your jobs. Melissa?
I will say that I think that this conversation is valuable, and being able to go to AGM and speak with other trustees is a great idea. Me personally, I have 5 kids in my house. My house is never quiet after 5. So being on Zoom is quite difficult. It's something obviously I would make happen. And then coming here at 5 o'clock, it's in the winter months, it's driving here in the dark, driving home in the dark. So there is a lot to decide, but I think that the conversation is valuable.
So, I think I've heard 2 references to maybe talking to people at AGM. So why don't we maybe think about revisiting this in May or June? Do your homework.
That seems to sound like where the conversation is going.
Yeah. Is there any objection to it? Okay, is that good? Alrighty. So that brings us to questions of clarification from the public.
Check. There's nothing there.
Okay, so we have concluded the business of this agenda, and now we are adjourned.